Hello and welcome to another episode of Pick 3 DST, where I give you 3 defenses I like and 1 defense I'm fading for Week 12 of the NFL season. Before we get into our picks for this week, we have to do our accountability check for what was another really strong week for us in Week 11. Our solid defense, the Miami Dolphins, got us 12 points, which we absolutely love. And then both our sleeper defense, the Kansas City Chiefs, and our stud defense, the Jacksonville Jaguars, got 8 points. And while that did leave them 1 point short of finishing in the top 10 for the week, 8 points definitely helps us in our fantasy matchups. So we like what both of those teams did for us. And then the defense that we faded, the Baltimore Ravens, were only able to put up 6 points, which had them finish 16th on the week. And that was with Joe Burrow missing a full half of football. So we feel pretty good about having them lower in our rankings. Before we get to our picks for Week 12, just as a reminder, comment below, let me know which defense you're starting in Week 12 or ask me any start-sit questions, and I'll get to those as the week goes on. We'll start, as always, with my sleeper defense of the week, which is the Denver Broncos. Consensus has them at 12th, and I have them up at 6th on the week. The Broncos defense has actually been pretty good for the last few weeks. They average 11.3 fantasy points over the last month, and that's come in some pretty tough competition. Now, they get a Browns offense that gives up the 12th most fantasy points to opposing defenses and is going to be with Dorian Thompson-Robinson under center again. So we really do like this matchup for this Broncos defense. Now, over the last month, we talked about how good the Broncos have been. They've forced a turnover in 7 straight games, but in their last 3 games, they've forced a whopping 12 turnovers, including 5 against the Kansas City Chiefs. So that has me feeling pretty confident about this Broncos defense going up against Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Now, the Broncos have also allowed over 330 yards in all but 2 games this year, and they only have 5 sacks over the last month. So they do have some flaws in this defense. I don't think that they're one of the best plays, but I think they can easily finish inside of the top 10 this week. Now, it should also be noted that the NFL suspended Kareem Jackson for repeatedly launching himself headfirst into offensive players, and that could have a little bit of an impact on the quality of the Broncos defense this week, but I still think they finish as a top 10 option. My solid defense of the week is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Consensus has them 3rd, and I have them at 7th this week. Now, we all know why consensus is so high on the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Cincinnati Bengals lost Joe Burrow for the season, and they're going to have Jake Browning under center in Week 12. Against the Ravens on Thursday night, Jake Browning did not look particularly up to the task, and it's clearly a downgrade for this Bengals offense. And while the Ravens are a really good defense, the Steelers are also a really good defense. Pittsburgh ranks 2nd in turnover rate. They rank 9th in knockdowns, which is sacks plus QB hits, and they're 10th in passes defended rate. So this is a tough test for Jake Browning and the Bengals offense. However, there is a lot of talent that still remains on the offensive side of the ball for the Bengals, who should get T. Higgins back this week as well. And the Bengals are a really well-coached offense, so I don't think they're going to put Browning in lots of positions for him to make mistakes. Plus, on the other side of the ball, I don't see the Steelers scoring a lot and forcing the Bengals to have to really pass, which means the Bengals are going to be able to rely on the running game, and that should keep this game low scoring, but it should also limit opportunities for sacks and turnovers, which means the Steelers are a solid top 10 play this week, but I think they're more in the back half of the top 10 than the front half of the top 10. Before we get to my stud defense of the week, you can click the link below to check my full weekly DST rankings, which I'll update as the week goes on when we get injury reports and weather updates and things like that. My stud defense of the week is the Kansas City Chiefs. Consensus has them 7th, and I have them up at 2nd. We're going back to the well with the Chiefs here for the 2nd week in a row because I still think that people don't really understand how good this defense actually is. The Chiefs rank 2nd in pressure rate. They rank 2nd in knockdowns. They rank 2nd in opponent scoring rate. So they're a really good defense, and they're going up against a Raiders team that has seen some of their, hey, we have a new coach and things are turning around magic kind of wear off of late. Rookie Aiden O'Connell looked overwhelmed against the Dolphins last week. He threw 3 interceptions, and that was after throwing an interception against the Jets the week before. We covered that the Dolphins scored 12 fantasy points against the Raiders last week, and the Chiefs have been a better fantasy defense all season than the Dolphins, so we should feel good about the Chiefs putting up similar numbers. Aiden O'Connell has only thrown over 240 yards once in his 5 starts, and this is the Chiefs defense that just held the Eagles to 238 yards of total offense and sacked Jalen Hurts 5 times. So coming off that effort and then getting a much easier Raiders offense, I really think the Chiefs are in a good spot for Week 12. Now we'll end with the defense I'm fading for this week, and it really could be the Baltimore Ravens again, since consensus has them inside of the top 10, but they're facing a Chargers offense that's given up the second fewest fantasy points per game over the last month. So that includes the injuries to Mike Williams and Josh Palmer and Gerald Everett, etc. However, we're going to give you a different defense this week, and I'm fading the Detroit Lions. Consensus has them 8th, and I have them down at 18th for the week. Jordan Love has actually been playing some really good football of late, finally throwing for over 300 yards and making this Packers offense look pretty good. Over the last month, the Packers also give up the 15th most fantasy points to opposing defenses. So while they're not a plus matchup, they're really not a bad matchup. They're kind of somewhere in the middle. And this is a Lions defense that's averaged only 5.3 fantasy points a game over the last month. So you have a middle-of-the-road Packers offense over the last month against a below-average fantasy defense in the Lions over the last month. So far this season, the Lions rank 20th in turnover rate and 22nd in opponent scoring rate. So we know the Lions have a really great pass rush led by Aiden Hutchinson and company, but they don't really get a lot of turnovers, and they do allow big plays and points. So I don't think that this is like a smash spot where the Packers are going to score tons of points. I think that the Lions on a short week on Thanksgiving may be in for a little bit of a sloppier performance than we expect against a Packers offense that's turning the corner a little bit. Now, we also know Aaron Jones is probably out, even though the Packers have said that the knee injury wasn't that serious. A.J. Dillon is a serviceable replacement, and so I think that the Lions are a good play for deeper formats, but I'd be avoiding them in shallower leagues. And that's going to do it for us for Week 12. As a reminder, if you haven't yet, click below to like and subscribe to get all of our fantasy football content and NFL content during the season. Comment, let me know which defense you're playing in Week 12, and then also click that link to get my full weekly DST rankings during the week. We'll see you next week for another episode of Pick 3 DST. Good luck on Sunday.